Hello, and welcome to Halfpipe Hangout. I'm your host, Ryan Vasanska-Hartwick. We've got a great show today. Christian DePillo is here to tell us all about his love for skateboarding. We caught up with Christian this weekend with some of his friends at a local skate park where they had a great time showing off some of their skills. Let's take a look. Whoa, those were some pretty sick moves. Christian, thank you so much for taking some time away from the halfpipe to spend some time with us today.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. I'm happy to be here.
So let's slide right in and let's start talking about the very beginning of your skateboarding story. So tell me, how did you get started with skateboarding?
I got started with skateboarding when I was probably in the second grade. I picked up a Tony Hawk book at my school's science fair, ironically, and I somehow convinced my dad to pay for it. And then when I got home, I found my brother's old skateboard in the garage, put it on the driveway, and then it's been history since then.
So tell me, how did you learn all of these tricks?
A lot of it's repetition, trial and error. You do it enough and you fail at it enough that eventually like if you're gonna get it, it sticks, and then sometimes tricks don't, and then like it just, it takes a while, but repetition is really what it is. You gotta stick with it.
Yeah. Now sports fans, they've got their favorite athletes, movie fans, their favorite celebrities. Did you have a favorite skateboarder that you really were into growing up, or even now that still inspires you and keeps you going?
When I was younger, I was a big Tony Hawk fan. I grew up playing his video games, so I knew all the skaters the big skaters that were in his game. So I was in like a huge Tony Hawk fan. And then as I've gotten older and I'm kind of been disconnected with the sport, but still involved, I don't have a favorite skater, but I have a lot of respect for the younger kids who are doing it, because at their age, they're so much better than I ever was at their age, and they're winning X Games gold medals, and like the skateboarding might be in the Olympics now. So I have a lot of respect for the younger kids.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing all of that with us, Christian. Now let's take a closer look at all of the physical parts that make up a skateboard, and when we come back, Christian here will show us how to put one together of your very own.
There are a lot of parts to a skateboard. First is the board, also known as the deck. This is the flat part that you stand on, and is usually covered in grip tape so your feet are less likely to slide off. Next, you have your hardware. The hardware is what keeps the deck of the skateboard fastened to the part that is attached to the wheels, which is called the truck. The truck is just a metal frame used to support the deck, and obviously, without it, the wheels would not be attached to the board. Last but not least, we have the wheels and the bearings. The wheels, obviously, are what keep the board moving, but the bearings are small devices that permit the motion of the skateboard. The lug nuts are also a part of the bearing that keeps the wheels from falling off the truck. They go on both sides of each wheel and are the driving force that makes a skateboard keep moving, even when the rider stops pushing. The tools required to put together a skateboard include a socket wrench, vice grips, and a screwdriver for 2 different size screws. Now that you have learned all the parts and what each part does, you can ride your own skateboard.
Well, isn't that fascinating? Now that we've identified all of the pieces of a skateboard and learned about the role for each one, Christian's going to show us exactly how to put one together right here in the studio. Take it away, Christian.
Sure, let's get right into it. So they all went over the parts of all the skateboards. These are your tools. You can use any tool in a standard toolkit, but I like to use this. It's called a unit tool. It's made specifically for skateboards, and it has everything you need in one tool, so it's really nice. The first thing you do is put screws in the trucks. I always put my trucks on first. And then the thing about the unit tool I don't like is the screwdriver is so small. So if I have the chance, I'll always use a bigger one just to put it in place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you always hand screw the nuts on until you feel some resistance at first. It just makes it easier. You have more control over the screw and the nut. So then once the nuts are on, take the smaller end of the unit tool and you just tighten it up. I like my trucks tight. Some people like them loose. It's really about personal preference. If I were assembling a board from scratch, if this was the front of my board, I would usually put a colored screw on like the top left, just because when you're trying to get a trick done like really fast, you don't want to have to worry about if you're using the tail or the nose, because believe it or not, there is a difference when you're skating.
Okay.
So once your trucks are all nice and tight, you get the wheel and you get the bearings. There's a red side and a black side. The red side always goes on the outside of the wheel. So you'll put that face down first, and then you just stick the wheel on. And you just push it in. And the more you do it, you'll be able to feel it, like you can feel that it's nice and secure. And then once that's in, you can see how flush it is against the wheel. Flip it over and do the same thing. Just push it on until you feel the bearing click in. And then I usually do it a couple times just to make sure that the bearing's really in there. And then just give it a couple test spins. Then you take two of these little washers and you put one on the front of the wheel and the back of the wheel. It just helps the components of the truck not break the edge of the bearing.
Gotcha.
And then you put the screw on, and then back to the unit tool. And that's pretty much it. Tighten it a little bit. You want to have some space between the nut and the wheel, just so it spins. And give it a couple test spins, make sure you like the speeds. That's pretty much it.
Wow, that is really interesting. Thanks for explaining that to us all, Christian. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank Christian DePillo for coming out and showing us and teaching us how to use a skateboard. I'm your host, Ryan Basanska Hartwick. Thanks for tuning in to Halfpipe Hangout.